My name is Jennifer, and I am 32 years old. I am married to my husband, Russell, who is 34 years old. We have been married for 5 years, and we have a beautiful baby daughter named Emma. She is only 6 months old and brings great joy to our lives. Russell has always been a caring and loving husband. He works as an accountant and usually comes home from work at 6 o'clock in the evening. After coming home, he spends time playing with Emma, helps me prepare dinner, and often makes me laugh with his jokes. I loved Russell deeply and trusted him completely, at least, that is how I felt before everything changed 3 months ago. One evening, Russell told me something unexpected. He said that he had started a second job and would be working at night. I was surprised because we were not facing any financial problems. When I asked him why he needed another job, he explained that he wanted to save more money for Emma's future. Although his reason sounded thoughtful, I was still curious. I asked him what kind of work he would be doing and where he would be working. Russell hesitated before answering. He simply said that it was evening work and that he would leave the house at 9 p.m. and return after midnight. When I asked again about the type of job, he avoided eye contact and told me it was difficult to explain, but he assured me that he would be safe and that I should not worry. His behavior felt strange to me, but I chose to trust him. That night, Russell left the house at exactly 9 p.m., and the house suddenly felt very quiet and empty without him. After that, this became his daily routine. Every night he left at the same time and returned late after midnight. Whenever he came home, he immediately went to take a shower before doing anything else. Soon, I began noticing small but unusual details. One morning, while doing the laundry, I smelled the shirt he had worn the previous night. It had the scent of a sweet, floral women's perfume that was not mine. I never wear perfume because strong smells make Emma sneeze. This discovery shocked me deeply, and my heart began to race. I could not understand why my husband's shirt smelled like another woman's perfume. A few days later, I found something even more disturbing. While checking his coat pocket, I discovered a receipt from an expensive Italian restaurant. The bill was for dinner for 2 people and cost $150. The date on the receipt was from the previous Thursday, the same night Russell had told me he would be working. My hands began to shake as painful questions filled my mind. Who had he gone to dinner with? Why had he lied to me? I felt confused and sick with worry. That evening, I wanted to ask him about the receipt, but fear stopped me. I was afraid of hearing an answer that might break my heart, so I remained silent. However, I started observing his behavior more carefully. I noticed that Russell was always using his phone, sending messages, and smiling while looking at the screen. Whenever I entered the room, he quickly locked or hid his phone. One day, I asked him directly who he was texting, and he simply replied that it was work-related. But his voice sounded nervous, and his expression showed guilt. One night, while he was taking a shower, his phone suddenly buzzed with a new message, making my curiosity and suspicion grow even stronger. One night, I picked up Russell's phone when I heard it vibrate. There was a new text message from a contact saved as C. The message said, "Can't wait to see you tonight." It was sent at the same time he usually left for his night job. My heart felt like it was breaking. I kept reading those words again and again, "Can't wait to see you tonight." I wondered who this person named C was. When Russell came out of the shower, he looked cheerful and excited. He smiled, kissed me gently, and then left the house as usual. I sat quietly on the couch, holding baby Emma in my arms, and cried without making a sound. During the following week, I began to find more signs that made me suspicious. One day, I discovered another receipt, this time from a flower shop. It showed that someone had bought 24 roses for $75. Russell had never bought flowers for me, not even on special occasions. I also noticed changes in his appearance. Before leaving for his night job, he started dressing more carefully. He wore expensive cologne, styled his hair, and paid more attention to how he looked. His behavior made me feel even more uneasy. One day, my friend Sasha came to visit me. She immediately noticed my red, tired eyes and asked what was wrong. I told her everything I had discovered, the smell of perfume, the restaurant receipt, the flowers, and the secret messages on his phone. After listening carefully, Sasha looked at me with concern and said gently, "Margaret, it sounds like he might be cheating on you." I quickly shook my head and said, "No, not Russell." But deep inside, I realized that I no longer believed my own words. That night, I decided to find out the truth. I asked my neighbor to watch Emma while I followed Russell. At exactly 9 p.m., he left the house, and I quietly followed his car from a distance. He drove for about 20 minutes until he reached a quiet neighborhood. Then he parked in front of a small house with a blue door. I watched as he walked confidently to the door. It opened, and he smiled warmly before stepping inside. I remained in my car, staring at that blue door in shock. My husband had just entered a stranger's house late at night, and I felt as if my entire world was falling apart. I waited there for 2 long hours, but Russell never came out. Finally, overwhelmed with sadness, I drove back home in tears. Later that night, he returned after midnight, just like always. He took a shower and came to bed, while I pretended to be asleep beside him. On the outside, I was silent, but inside I felt pain, anger, and confusion. The next day, I decided to search through Russell's phone while he was not around. I found the phone number saved as C and searched for it online. The name that appeared was Catherine. I looked for her on social media and soon found her profile. She was a beautiful woman with long, dark hair and appeared to be around 40 years old, older than my husband. My heart sank as I realized that this must be the person he had been meeting every night. I looked through her photos and saw that she seemed happy, confident, and full of energy. At that moment, I felt completely different from her. I had recently given birth to a baby and was always tired from caring for Emma. My body had changed, and I felt insecure about my appearance. Looking at Catherine's perfect pictures made me feel even more broken and uncertain about my marriage and my future. I hardly wore makeup anymore, and I began to feel insecure about myself. I thought that maybe Russell wanted someone different, someone more beautiful, more confident, and more exciting than me. These painful thoughts filled my mind, and I cried until I had no tears left. That evening, I could not even look at him. When he noticed my silence, he asked gently, "Margaret, what's wrong?" I forced a weak smile and replied, "Nothing. I'm fine." When he tried to hold my hand, I pulled it away and said coldly, "Just go to your second job, Russell." He looked confused and hurt by my reaction, but he quietly left the house. The next day, I made a decision. I could no longer live with lies and secrets. At 8:30 in the evening, before he could leave, I stood in front of the door and said firmly, "Russell, we need to talk right now." He seemed surprised and said, "Margaret, I have to go." But I refused to move and said, "No. Sit down and tell me the truth." He slowly sat on the couch, and I asked him directly, "Where do you go every night?" He repeated what he had told me before, but this time I lost my patience. I shouted, "Stop lying." I found the receipts, I smelled the perfume, I saw the text messages, and I followed you to that house. His face suddenly turned pale, and he asked in shock, "You followed me?" I answered, "Yes." "Now tell me who Catherine is. Tell me why you go to her house every night. I want to know everything." Russell looked completely stunned. His eyes widened as he asked, "How do you know about Catherine?" With tears filling my eyes, I begged him again to tell me the truth. He ran his hands nervously through his hair and remained silent for a moment. Finally, he spoke in a serious voice and said, "Margaret, sit down. I will explain everything." I sat on the sofa, my hands shaking with fear and anxiety, preparing myself for the worst. Then Russell said something that completely shocked me. He said, "Margaret, Catherine is your mother." For a moment, I could not move or speak. I felt frozen. "What?" I whispered in disbelief. He continued, "The house I visit every night is your mother's house." I struggled to breathe as his words sank in. My mother. I had not seen her in 8 years. We had a terrible argument when I was 24, and after that we stopped speaking. When I married Russell, I did not invite her to the wedding. Even when Emma was born, I never called her. I had completely removed her from my life. Russell then explained that 3 months earlier, my mother had contacted him. He spoke softly and said, "Margaret, your mother is very sick. She has stage 4 cancer, and the doctors say she may only have 2 or 3 months left to live." I could not believe what I was hearing. The news felt heavy and overwhelming. My mother was dying. Russell continued to explain that my mother wanted to see me again, to apologize for the past, and to meet her granddaughter Emma. However, she was too afraid to contact me directly because she feared I would reject her. Instead, she asked Russell to visit her and share news about me and Emma, hoping that one day we might be reunited. "She only wanted to hear about your life before she passed away." I stared at Russell in complete shock and asked slowly, "So you have been visiting my mother every night?" He quietly nodded and explained that he spent time talking with her, showing her pictures of Emma, and sharing stories about my life. Confused and hurt, I asked him why he had hidden such an important truth from me. Russell gently replied that he did not want to force me to see her because he knew how deeply she had hurt me in the past. He said he never wanted to pressure me or reopen my old wounds. Still trying to understand everything, I asked about the perfume, the restaurant receipt, and the flowers I had found. He calmly explained that the perfume smell came from the nurse who cared for my mother. The restaurant receipt was for takeout because my mother wanted to eat her favorite pasta one last time, and the flowers were bought to brighten her hospital room. He also explained that he had saved her contact in his phone as C so that I would not see her full name and become upset. Suddenly, every piece of evidence that had caused me so much pain began to make sense. Overcome with emotion, I started crying and confessed that I had believed he was cheating on me and no longer loved me. Russell looked at me with sincerity and said he would never betray me and that everything he had done was only to protect my feelings. Then he took out his phone and showed me a folder filled with videos. He explained that he had recorded my mother speaking to me every night. When he played one of the videos, my mother's face appeared on the screen. She looked weak, thin, and very pale. With a trembling voice, she said, "Margaret, my beautiful daughter, I know I hurt you. I said terrible things, and I was foolish. I just want you to know that I love you. I have always loved you." Russell shows me pictures of Emma. She is beautiful, and I wish I could hold her. When the video ended, my eyes were filled with tears. I looked at Russell with deep emotion and realized that this man had spent 3 months visiting my dying mother, all to protect my heart and give us a chance to reconnect. Feeling ashamed of my doubts, I apologized sincerely. He gently hugged me and said that everything was okay. With hope in my voice, I asked if I could still see my mother. Russell smiled softly and told me that she was waiting for me. We immediately drove to the house with the blue door. When I entered, I saw my mother lying weakly in a hospital bed. She looked fragile and tired, but when she saw me, tears filled her eyes. She whispered my name, and I walked closer, holding back my own tears. I said softly, "I'm here, Mother. I'm here." She apologized to me with deep regret, and I also apologized for the years of silence and distance between us. We told each other that we loved one another, and we spent hours talking, remembering the past, and crying together as we slowly began to heal our broken relationship. After that day, we spent more time together, and slowly the pain between us began to disappear. We talked, we cried, and sometimes we even laughed together like we used to in the past. The next day, I brought my baby daughter Emma to meet her grandmother for the first time. My mother carefully held Emma in her weak arms and gently kissed her forehead. With tears in her eyes, she said softly, "She is perfect." From that day on, I visited my mother every single day. We shared memories, talked about life, and tried to make up for all the years we had lost. 2 months later, my mother passed away peacefully. I was sitting beside her, holding her hand in mine. Her final words were filled with love. She said, "I love you, Jennifer. Take care of your beautiful family." Hearing those words was painful, but it also gave me peace because we had forgiven each other and healed our relationship before she died. At her funeral, I stood beside my husband and held Russell's hand tightly. With deep gratitude, I thanked him for helping me reconnect with my mother and for giving me the chance to see her again. He gently squeezed my hand, and at that moment I truly understood how deep and sincere his love was. For 3 months, he sacrificed his sleep and kept a painful secret, even when I doubted him and accused him of terrible things. He did all of this simply because he loved me and wanted to protect my heart. Now, whenever people ask me about my husband, I smile and tell them that his love is a beautiful and heartbreaking secret. Because of his love, I received the greatest gift of all, the chance to forgive my mother and say goodbye to her with peace in my heart. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.